All right, so official time is kept up here and I see it's 6 o'clock. Good evening and welcome to the December 9th meeting of the Oconee Planning Commission. We are a recommending body to the Oconee Board of Commissioners. Decisions made here tonight on rezoning requests and other issues will be forwarded to Oconee BOC for final action. Tonight's agenda and sign-up sheet was out back, and I've got a few of you. If you missed that, we'll have an opportunity to raise your hand and call forward if you missed it. The Oconee Planning Department staff, here's how we're going to do things. Planning staff will present each report and the recommendations. The public input from the petitioner or the petitioner's representative will be heard first. Then we'll invite public input that is in favor of the request. And both those, we hope to only take about 20 minutes or so. Then we'll ask for public input from representative or anybody that wants to speak in opposition. We'll give the petitioner or the petitioner's representative a chance if there's some questions that are brought up that he might or she might be able to quickly answer. After that, I'll close the public comment section and bring it up here to the commissioners. At that time, they will get to ask their questions of staff or petitioner. Upon their questions getting answered, I'll ask for a motion and a second and any discussions, and then we'll have a vote. We can approve or deny and so forth. So for the benefit of those present and watching online, all comments should be made up here at the podium. When you approach the podium, please give us your name and your home address. Direct your comments to the planning commissioners so that we can see if we have similar concerns or find an answer for you. And when multiple speakers, please avoid repeating exactly what the other person says. You can say ditto, but we'd like you to point out any other issues that they may not have addressed that you still have concerns about or reasons that you're in favor of it. And then we ask the audience to extend a courtesy to each other, not applauding or commenting from your seats, and address all your comments to the commissioners. And with that, I will ask my colleagues, you had an opportunity to read the minutes from last month. And are there any corrections or typos that we need to address before we? All right. So if there is not any issues with the minutes, can I ask for a motion to approve? All right. And I need a second. Nathan. All right. With that, please raise your right hand if you also approve. Thank you. And with that being done, Mr. Herring, I'll invite you to.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, your first case this evening is P240217, Townley Family Partnership applicant and owner. This is parcels A04018B, A04030, B03028, B03017A, B03028A, B03017B, and B03023. They're currently zoned AG and AR in the suburban neighborhood character area. And the request is to rezone 194.46 acres from AG to AR. These are the recorded plats you have in your application packets of the subject parcels, the overall concept plan, zoning concept plan, and then the concept plan showing the proposed lot configuration. These are the architectural images you have in your application packets. And staff recommends conditional approval with our 3 standard conditions. Number 4, all conditions of approval shall apply to parcels B03029D, which is 1355 Malcolm Bridge Road, and B03031B, 1161 Hodges Mill Road, as indicated on the concept plan. Number 5, no final plat shall be granted for a period of 10 years from the date of Board of Commissioners approval. Number 6, all areas along exterior boundaries and rights of way abutting Georgia 53, Rocky Branch Road, and Hodges Mill Road shall indicate an open space area 15 feet wide. The design of the open space area is to be approved by the Director of Planning and Code Enforcement at the time of preliminary plat submission. Within the open space area, a buffer that contains a 10-foot wide and 4-foot tall berm shall be installed with evergreen landscaping that is 6 foot high at the time of planting prior to granting final plat approval. Number 7, an 8-foot wide concrete multi-use path shall be installed within the public right-of-way for the roads that connect Rocky Branch Road and Hodges Mill Road. The multi-use path shall also be installed along Hodges Mill Road south to the intersection of Georgia 53, Hog Mountain Road. The multi-use path shall be installed prior to granting final plat approval. Thank you.
Thank you. So I see Jeff Carter signed up, I assume, as the representative.
Good evening. I'm Jeff Carter with Carter Engineering, 1010 Commerce Drive in Watkinsville. And I'm here tonight representing Townley Family Partnerships. And I would like to just briefly go through a presentation for you so that I can fully describe what we're asking for tonight. And so if you could direct your attention to the screen. So first of all, just to kind of get you located exactly where this property is, Highway 53 Hog Mountain Road is to the south. Hodges Mill Road is here, and then Rocky Branch Road is right through there. And so the blue color, light blue color, is North Oconee High School. The green color is the future Dawson Park, which is understand is in the planning phase now. And the yellow outline parcels are what staff just presented. This is the subject property that we're asking to be rezoned tonight. This is a zoning map. All of the green color is currently zoned AR, agricultural residential. And I would like to just kind of give you a snapshot of the area. The light grayish area, I guess you could call that light gray, maybe light purple, is zoned R2, and the minimum lot size there is 1.2 acres. The blue is zoned R1, that has a 1.5 acre minimum, and the green is a 2 acre minimum. And as you can see, the zoning line right now goes pretty much right through the middle of the subject property that we're asking to be rezoned tonight. And so what we're asking to do is complete really from Rocky Branch all the way over to Hodges Mill and fill in these areas with an AR zoning designation. So I just wanted to give you, and I should point out that there's red here, this zone close by, that's zone commercial. So there are multiple zonings in this immediate area. This will give you an idea. Right in the middle of the bullseye here is a subject property. And this just kind of gives you, every ring represents a mile from the subject site. And so the green, all of the green area is zoned agricultural residential, and all of the yellow area that you see around it is actually zoned more dense than what we're asking for. So this rezone fits very well within the surrounding area. As a matter of fact, if you look back, and pretty much all this area here is already zoned AR. And so that's what we're asking for. You got Dawson Park here, you got the high school there. So we feel like this is a very appropriate rezone. So let's look at the future land use map. What does the future of Oconee County tell us in terms of the comprehensive plan? And so I would like to read verbatim from the comprehensive plan for you. So this is directly out of the 2023 comprehensive plan. And this is classified as suburban neighborhood character. And all the properties in tan color, if you will, are the same land use designation. Okay, so all of the surrounding property for several miles, everything north of Hog Mountain Road is suburban neighborhood character. And this is what it says. This character area includes established suburban neighborhoods and conventional subdivisions and master plan developments. This character area consists principally of single-family detached houses with some higher density housing included in a planned development or near an established non-residential area. Houses tend to be on 1.5 to 2 acre or larger lots on public water. This is what it says for the infrastructure for this suburban neighborhood designation. Public water is available. It is. Well-developed network of local collector and arterial roads. There is here. Parks and recreation facilities serve the area. We know there's a park that'll soon be there, and schools nearby. So we have every one of these infrastructures that are listed in this comprehensive plan is included with this property. So this is just a rendering of the property. There are 88, because if you remember, the zoning line goes right through the middle of the property. So what we're talking about here is 88 parcels that would be zoned AR, okay? There's 120 total with what you see on the map, but there's 88 that would be rezoned, okay, to AR. It's within walking distance to the future park. It's in walking distance to North Oconee High School. There'll be pedestrian connectivity throughout the neighborhood. There'll be amenity areas throughout the neighborhood. And there's a potential for trail and access. If you look in the blue areas, there's some ponds that are presently on the property. So there'll be some, perhaps some trails there. And so we feel like this is a very appropriate use for this location. Now, I do want to point out a couple of things, just a couple of clarifications on the staff recommendations that I would like to discuss. But before I do that, I want to just make sure that you can see that this property has a lot of public road frontage. So you've got Highway 53, the road wraps around all the way here, and then you've got Rocky Branch. So there's a lot of road frontage here. And so if you go to the staff recommendations in your packet, staff recommendation number 5, you can look at that. It says all areas along exterior boundaries and rights of way abutting GA 53, Rocky Branch Road and Hodges Mill Road shall indicate an open space area 15 feet wide. The design of the open space areas to be approved by the Director of Planning and Code Enforcement at the time of preliminary plat submission. Within the open space area, a buffer that contains a 10-foot wide and 4-foot tall berm shall be installed with evergreen landscaping that is 6 feet high at the time of planning prior to granting final plat approval. So we are not objecting to this condition, but we do feel like some clarification is in order because that second sentence reads, the design of the open space areas to be approved by the director at time of preliminary plat submission. And what we would like to do is give more definition to what that looks like, so there's no confusion later on. So with that, I'd like to show you 3 different open space buffer areas. Now, these will be along the road frontage, Hog Mountain Road, Rocky Branch Road. There are 3 options, and the reason there's 3 options is because we felt like that having the same buffer all along these road frontages would look bad for the community. We feel like having a few options here would make it look better, not look like one continuous buffer. All right, so this is option number 1. We've got large canopy trees, understory trees, and then tall evergreen hedges. This is option 2. We've got large canopy trees, a berm, and a 4-rail fence, and some supplemental shrubs and plantings. And this is option 3 with large evergreen trees and large evergreen shrubs and supplemental shrubs and plantings. And so what we have discussed with staff, and I think you'll find that they'll support this, we would like to revise the recommendation. At the very top there, this is verbatim the staff recommendation. And just below that is what we are requesting. I'd like to read that for you. All areas along exterior boundaries and rights of way abutting GA 53, Rocky Branch Road, and Hodges Mill Road shall indicate an open space area 15 feet wide. The open space area shall include one of the 3 options presented in the applicant's submitted illustration. The open space area parallel to GA 53 shall include option 3 only. The open space area shall be completed by the time of final plat at the heights and placement presented in the illustration. So again, this is not changing really the condition or the suggested condition, but it is clarifying, it is giving definition to it, which we would appreciate. So all the frontage along Highway 53 will be one option. The other frontages, it'll be a combination of all three options, okay? All right, the other recommendation is number 6, and that is an 8-foot wide concrete multi-use path shall be installed within the public right-of-way for the roads that connect Rocky Branch Road and Hodges Mill Road. The multi-use path shall also be installed along Hodges Mill Road south to the intersection with GA 53. The multi-use path shall be installed prior to granting final plat approval. So we don't object to this condition, but we would like to clarify, and you can see it there in red. I won't bore you with reading it again, but but the difference is if there is no connecting road. So the purpose of the 8-foot multi-use path is if the road connects from one road to the other. And the point of that is to get to the park, okay? So if that in fact happens, then the 8-foot multi-use path will be installed. If there is no connecting road, for whatever reason, whatever reason there's no connecting road, the site plan changes a little bit, then the 8-foot multi-use path would not be required. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. All right. And the last point I would like to make here is recommendation number 4. No final plat shall be granted for a period of 10 years from the date of Board of Commissioners approval. And I want to make sure that that this is pointed out because this is no small condition. The developer, the property owner in this case, when we started this rezone, we talked to staff about the fact that there are a lot of lots to be developed in Oconee County. And we felt like that we would self-impose a 5-year moratorium and not build anything for 5 years to let the lots draw down, okay? We felt like that was a sign of good faith, goodwill, what have you. We submitted our application and staff reviewed it and feels like 10 years is appropriate, okay? Now, I've been doing this for 25 years. I have never, ever even seen anything close to this. All right, a 10-year, a developer that is saying, I'm okay with a 10-year moratorium on doing anything on the property. And he is agreeable to this. And so we're not asking for any changes to that condition. I just wanted to point out that nothing's going to happen for 10 years on this property. So I appreciate your support. I'll be happy to answer any of your questions. There's an owner's representative here that can try to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you for your time.
All right. I'll take a quick minute to make sure we're all on the same page. As Mr. Herring read it, he's talking about revision to item 6 and item 7. And he's saying that item 5 was okay with the builder. The numbers were just a little bit out of sync there. And I didn't want to interrupt you earlier, right? So I also have a Russell Willis signed up. You want to go ahead?
Yeah. Hey there, Russell Wills, address 1030 Settlers Pass, Athens, Georgia, with Townley Family Partnership. Just to kind of contextualize some of the what whys behind the rezone. I mean, we've been talking for several years about the land Tony continues to acquire and farm in Oconee County and just the long-term vision and plan for that. And just off and on for years talked about, what's in the comprehensive plan zoning wise and kind of his current intent of the land. Haven't done a lot. I mean, I would kind of to piggyback on some of what Jeff has said. He tried to rezone this land 15 years ago. He could have got half-acre lots and sewer, and it's never been his strong desire to focus on that. But kind of two events that kind of push us to finally getting a little bit of the planning done would be kind of the new release of the comprehensive plan that came out this past year, where a lot of the land that we currently own kind of got watered down. Some of the commercial along 53 got taken off and some of the lot densities got larger. And so as we look back over kind of the years of comprehensive plans and just as things have gotten watered down, our intent is just kind of to lock in zoning so that we know what we have and what we can for sure count on in the future. As we look at, I mean, the bigger issue was kind of the right-of-way acquisition at Snows Mill and 53. The comprehensive plan came out right before GDOT made us an offer on the land, and the tax assessor was taxing it as commercial and GDOT offered it as large lot agriculture based on the new comprehensive plan. So it's more just to get some definitive knowns out there for the future that, you know, things don't keep changing. Tony's very content farming it for the long haul, the 10 years. It's something he's willing to accept. You know, not much is going to change. He lives across the street from there. Mr. Harold lives across the street from there. I know there's a lot of speculation about what his intent is, but you know, there's a lot of comfort in it on our side of saying, look, 10 years out is fine. Agree with Jeff. That's a crazy timeline and there's a lot of unknowns and what else that can happen in the next 10 years. And there's fear around that from our side, but I think the probabilities are fair that it's going to be farmed for the next 10 plus years. So happy to answer any questions, but that's just kind of color around why we've brought it to planning and ultimately the board at this point in time. Thank you all.
All right, thank you. So that's everyone that signed up before the meeting started in favor. Is there anyone that wants to speak in favor at this time? All right, so I'll close that time for the moment and I'll open it up. I have a Carolyn Elster signed up to raise some issue.
I have a couple here since I'm going to be in the backyard of this place. 1130 Carolyn Elster, 1130 Richwood Trail, bought the home in 1998. I just saw my piece of land. We have enjoyed for 26 years Tony Townley's beautiful farmland. And I also represent about 18 homes in there. I was the homeowner president for almost 15 years. So we have grown accustomed to having a suburbia in farmland. I've been in Oconee County since 1985. I have seen it, all the growth. I was here back when you did Parkside Promenade, trying to see if we could cut back on that. Knew that was never going to happen. But anyway, my concerns are for us and the people of my neighbors is the property taxes that this will do in the future. I'm very happy to hear it's in 10 years. Me and Rick will probably be gone by then, but we don't want to leave. We are Oconee citizens, and you know, hearing that he was going to rezone it with all these $1 million homes would impact us. We're all pretty much on fixed income. Some of us have lived there almost 30 years. We're in our 60s. We have to deal with the property taxes. I know that mine just went up very high. I was able to lock into the freeze on that. So mainly the property tax situation with having $1 million homes, although I actually like it. I love it because my home is worth a lot of money now. And I bought my home in 1998 for $150,000. So you can imagine. We don't want to move. We've talked about moving, going to South Oconee or going somewhere where it's more farmland. But Mr. Carter and I forgot other man has alleviated a lot of that. So I think we can maybe hold on. But I did want to say that when you have $1 million homes, you do get people from the outside. We have our own business in downtown Watkinsville. We have Magpie Clockworks. We work with people, they come in from all over the county and they're not from Oconee County. So we've seen a dilution of the county, and you know that we want it to kind of stay Oconee County. I know you've heard that. My biggest concern is the four-way stop at Hodges Mill. That was built when we came. Traffic in that area is so bad and we've been jammed up by all these subdivisions. And I know that North Oconee became that area for subdivisions. Then you got North Oconee High School, which everybody, and when we call the property tag office, complain, well, you live in North Oconee. And I'm sorry, you are in the most valuable land in Georgia, basically, you know. So that four-way stop would be impacted by that entrance. I can tell there'll be an entrance on Rocky Branch. That's cool. But the one where we are, we're constantly just all day long, and I'm there. I have to work in Watkinsville, 53. We're praying you get the roundabout soon, but we are jammed up in that area. And what I've noticed about Malcolm Bridge when I come out, they're going 60 to 80 miles per hour. We have a hard time getting out of our subdivision. I'm in Eastville Village, which was one of the earlier subdivisions. So I've seen the change. So those are my concern. The last one is, I'm going to quote our chairman in his county address. He said that our two master plan developments that were approved was the massive Westland on 78 and of course Parkside Promenade. And he said at the time the county had the master, let me quote him, the county during this period of the master plan development sold sewer capacity it didn't have. We're not really impacted by the resources, but we still know that you have to take that into account. So I thank you for letting me talk. I'm going to tell my neighbors we still have plenty of time. They're not going to come bulldozing next week. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
And for clarity, I'll just point out that even though I'm the chairman here, she's referring to Chairman Daniels. All right. I have Richard Elster also.
Try not to. I'm Richard Elster, live at 1130 Richwood Trail. I'll try not to repeat anything that my wife just said. I think the biggest thing that I want to say is right now where our lot's located, I look out in my backyard and our lot doesn't quite touch the land, but it's, pretty close. And I can look out my backyard and see a little pond and cows grazing and stuff. And, I want to lose that. So, that's about all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. So I also have June Gentry.
Good evening. I'm Julie Gentry. I live at 1180 Overlook Ridge Road. It's right off of Coal Springs, 1.5 miles from where you're talking about putting all this development. I've lived there for 45 years. So we've seen a lot of changes in the county over the years. We do not want another Gwinnett County here in Oconee County. Traffic out there, as previously said, is absolutely horrendous. If you figure Clotfelter Road, Hodges Mill Road, Rocky Branch Road, it can take anywhere from 5 to 8 minutes just to get out onto 53, which is a nightmare. And then you have the impact on the schools. I read where the school figures is probably going to be 120 extra students. It's probably going to be more like 150 extra students when you figure the full, not just those 88, but the full amount of the units that they're planning to put in. I fully believe that the property should stay where they have a minimum of 5 acres per house, which will lower the density, which will help with the traffic problems and possibly the issue of students there in the schools. Just driving here on my way, which is approximately 20 minutes from my house, I counted over 300 cars on 53. And thank you for listening.
Thank you. All right. So those were the three that signed up beforehand. Anyone else need to bring up any other issues? I'll take the first one.
Good evening. My name's Bobby Kraus and I live at 1201 Deer Trail, Bishop. I am a proud resident of Oconee County for the last 7 years. I spent 32 years in public education. Retired 7 years ago, moved to Oconee County for one reason and one reason only. My grandchildren are here. I love Oconee County. It is my home. It will be my home until they take me to the home as a severely old man. But there's some things that I've noticed. I'm afraid that growth is going to outstrip infrastructure. And by infrastructure, I mean sewage, water. I mean traffic, roads, development. You know everything of what I'm talking about. I have only one concern about the issue before you tonight and the approval. And by the way, Mr. Townley's land backs up to my property. I love hearing the cow, as an old Mississippi boy, I love hearing the cows behind my property. I have nothing absolutely against Mr. Townley or anything else. But one thing I thought was very,
Address,
poignant.
address us up here, please.
okay, the gentleman who was here earlier and presented the pictures. He had one that I thought was very appropriate. It was in concentric circles and it showed the development around it. There was one thing I want you to pay particularly strong attention to. What was at the bullseye of that thing? It was a school, an Oconee County school. Bullseye by that particular diagram. Think about that. Do you want a school at the bullseye of something that is presented for approval to the commissioners? Do you want that approved? I don't know. All I know is what I spent 32 years there in the schools, the last 7 as a district level employee. And I attended too many funerals of children killed on the way to and from school. Most of them were to and from school ball games, choir presentations, not day-to-day school. You understand as well as I do, in today's economy, all God's children in Oconee County think they have a right to drive a car to school. And they're going to. My children did. I am right there with every other parent of a child. Please think about that school right in the crossroads, right in the bullseye of the development being presented tonight for approval and those that will come shortly. Please work with the school boards, try to make the safest environment possible for our school kids and for our parents. I know you guys have the best heart for all the people of Oconee County. I thank you for all of your work and thank you for letting me just ramble tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we did see another hand. You still need to, okay.
Steve Jacobson, I reside over there at 1121 Creek Farm Run in the Rocky Branch subdivision. Anyway, I back up to Rocky Branch. Saturday mornings, you can hear at least a half a dozen set of tires lock them up at that intersection. Before you approve this, I asked that somehow you guys got to get some infrastructure put in, whether it be down Malcolm Bridge, but you got to have a light or something. I mean, it's amazing there has not been some major fatalities on that corner. And I run Rocky Branch to work every day, 5 days a week. And that road needs a lot of work. If you go down through there, there's at least a dozen places that the roads broke off on the side, people running off into the edge where the gravel's at. I mean, there needs to be some infrastructure in before you start putting in 88 new facilities. Now the question, that's all nice and dandy, fancy engineering work done in a box. 88, I do it all the time. But the problem is, how many of them 88 actually perk out for a septic system? Can you guys tell me that? Come on, I see deer in the headlights, look. Someone should be able to answer that question because that 88 might be dropped. Am I right or am I wrong?
They do have to have a septic system, but that's not our particular issue at this point.
Right, I understand that. So my thing is there needs to be some infrastructure put in either at Malcolm Bridge and Rocky Branch intersection, as well as the other end. The other end, I come through there and I mean, cars fly down 53. That's like I heard you guys are gonna put a roundabout down there corner of 53 and Malcolm Bridge. I call it suicide curve. I got a bet there'll be at least 4 cars upside down the first year. I mean, you stop and drive that intersection, you'll see a lot of cars flying. I've looked left, I've looked right, I've looked left, I've turned right, and that car's sitting right in front of me. Cause he's come over that hill off the right side, cruising, like she said, 70, 80 mile an hour. Some of them, I swear, is longer, faster than that. Look how many times the building's been wiped out in the last 2 years. Am I right or am I not? I'm just trying to state the facts. There needs to be some infrastructure put in to do this. And you need to think about that. I mean, it's nice to put $1 million homes in. Don't get me wrong, drives the value of my house up. There's only one thing. At some age, I can get out of paying school taxes. You get a lot of people moving in here with $1 million, write that check. Well, they're probably old enough, because it's not starter homes, $1 million. I couldn't afford $1 million house when I started. Can any of you guys? Or did you? I doubt it. So, I mean, we need to think about, yeah, you might have 88 homes, but if you got a bunch of retired people drop in here out of Atlanta, New York, and they get out of paying school taxes, what's that do to everybody else in the county? It drives all their school taxes up, right? And the more kids we got in the area, more school taxes we're gonna need. Thank you for your time, but think about the infrastructure. Thank you.
All right. So I'll ask one last time if there's any other issues that need to be addressed or brought to our attention. All right, I don't see anybody trying to get my attention, so I'm gonna go ahead and close the public comment. I didn't hear any questions at this time that I need to call the representative back to try to address. So with that, I will close the public portion of the meeting and I will bring it to you guys up here for your questions, and please get my attention and we'll get whoever you need up here.
Mr. Herring. His description of the buffers, the 3 options for buffers, are those agreeable to your department?
Yes, staff is agreeable with those changes.
All 3 of them are?
Yes, sir.
And his plan that he outlined for where he was going to place those are also agreeable?
Yes, sir.
I noticed in the description that the minimum in the verbal description from the Carter Engineering is 2,500 square feet minimum heated space. That becomes part of the petition. In other words, he, without coming back and seeking approval, he could not do less than 2,500
That's right.
minimum.
That's
square
correct. They'll be better
heated.
with that. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. And then I followed the description of the 8-foot multi-use path. Was his explanation acceptable to your department?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Mr. Herring. Lots of questions about infrastructure. Can you address some of that? Whose
Sure.
responsibility is that to do that in the process?
Right.
et cetera?
Well, and so our Unified Development Code sets out parameters whereby traffic studies are required. And that is for any development that is over 1,000 trips a day, right? And so if and when they submit for development plans, as one of the gentlemen suggested, if those block counts come in such that their traffic counts will increase will be 1,000 trips a day, then they would have to do a traffic study and address any of those, mitigate any of the traffic impacts from the development. But as one of the members spoke, there may be a much less lot count when they go through environmental health, and especially with some of the riparian buffers, the lakes, the soils in that area. So that would be something we would address at the time that they submit development plans, just like with any other development.
And we've had it come before us before with people requesting traffic lights. That's not your department's
That's right. No, and it has to be justified. So GDOT's not going to allow a traffic signal on their system without justification. And so that's where that would come into play, that traffic study. And it's based on an impact. It's based on the developments, at this time, with that 10-year horizon. We're not at a point where that would be required.
On that topic, if 10 years from now, it was necessary, Hodges Mill, Malcolm Bridge, and Rocky Branch are all internal roads, so the county could address those with traffic lights without GDOTs.
Well, yes, any of the county's road
So the
infrastructure, not a
53
state
that
route.
we
That's right.
plan are restricted.
And as was mentioned, a roundabout will be at one of those. Right, so, yeah.
Right, correct. While you're up there.
One more question. AR means minimum lot size of 2 acres.
Yes,
Is
sir.
that correct?
That's
Okay,
correct.
Thank you.
I've got two for you.
Yes,
Go ahead, Colby.
One, is there any type of like buffer restriction or requirement between these lots that abut other residential lots, whether it be independent or neighborhoods?
because they're not incompatible uses. So buffers are based on incompatibility between the two uses, and these are both single-family residential uses. No, sir.
All right, and then second question, we can only vote to approve or deny. There's no like tabling or.
No, that's right. Tabling, no. Obviously, you can vote to approve with conditions, approve with staff conditions, or vote to deny. Yes, sir.
All right, anybody else have questions? Let me look over the public comments, just most of those. Yeah, and as a former bus driver on Rocky Branch Road, I wish we could straighten it out a little bit and have outlets, but then again, some of these homes may promote walking. Of course, we'll have to have safe crossings if ever that was to happen. So most of these issues, I'll just point out, you have to go through this again at the Board of Commissioners, no matter what we decide up here. So most of these are not inside of our purview. So with that, I'll ask one more time if there are any other questions.
Yeah, I had a question for Mr. Wells.
Go ahead.
Yeah, you had mentioned, obviously, this is going to be at least 10 years before this gets developed. Are you guys planning on developing this yourself or in partnership with the developer? I'm just curious. I didn't know if you had any plans.
There's no imminent plan to develop it at all. I mean, between now and 10 years from now, I really don't know the lay of the land. It's more of just trying to get the zoning locked in.
Okay.
Right. Got everybody up here sorted out. There's only so many times I can go back and forth, and then I start fishing for a motion. Remember, the staff made one set of recommendations. The applicant has asked us to provide 6 and 7. Staff has said okay with those, if that's our choice. And number 5 was a situation that it was okay as is. All right. So with that clarity, let's see what kind of motions we've got.
Just 5.
They're misnumbered on
Yeah,
what we
it's
have.
numbered on our sheet. We have
Right.
2 number 3s. And when Mr. Herring read them out, he renumbered them, if you didn't do it already. So 5 was addressed by the applicant, and he's okay with the 10-year moratorium of sort. And then number 6, he'd like there to be one of 3 options. And then he'd work with the staff to decide which ones go where, if there's going to be a variety of them. And then finally, on number 7, he asked that if that road that empties out on Rocky Branch towards the Dawson Park is not in the final plating, then there wouldn't be a requirement for a sidewalk to go there as it's written. I've got that right. That will be the. All right.
Can we bring those back up?
Could we bring the? Yeah. But they won't have the revisions that the applicant has suggested. right? And his suggestions were for number 6, which talks about the buffer, and it talks about a future planning. He'd rather put in there that there's 3 options. One's variety of vegetation is the way I put it in my
Mr.
notes.
Chairman, we'll bring it back up.
Okay.
So we're clear on the recommendations.
You had them redlined.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So these are the 2 recommendation revisions by the applicant. You'll notice in the highlighted or the red, this is for number 5, which is actually number 6 in our staff report. And again, it's all areas along the exterior boundaries and rights of way abutting Georgia 53 Rocky Branch Road and Hodges Mills shall indicate an open space area 15 feet wide. The open space area shall include one of the 3 options presented in the applicant's submitted illustration. The open space area parallel to Georgia 53 shall include option 3 only. That option 3 only is the evergreen one, such that you had more of a sound and visual buffer along 53. We thought that made sense. And then the open space area shall be completed by the time of final plat at the heights and placement presented in the illustration. So the other 2 roads, Rocky Branch and Hodges Mill, would be allowed to do any combination of the 3. So it would be a mix of on those 2 roads, but on Georgia 53 state route, the evergreen would be the one that they're proposing to put there, and staff is okay with that. And then on the final recommendation revision, this was for the multi-use path. I'm not sure you're aware, but the county has a master path plan that actually shows the path they're installing now on Hog Mountain between 441 and Butler's. It will continue to north in future years. So we thought with the timing of this development that it might be appropriate for this to be connected to that. And so their only change to that is that if they don't configure that through road as shown on this concept plan, that they wouldn't be required to run a multi-use path through there connecting the 2. And we felt like that was appropriate. If there's no through road, there would be no need for that multi-use path to go through there. But they will connect the subdivision to the path on 53. So they'll come along, Hodges, and run out to our path on 53 along Hodges Mill Road. And we were okay with that change. Thank you.
All right, we got those. So once again, you can make a motion to approve or deny. You can make a motion with all of the conditions, or you could address some of those conditions right now. And
Mr. Chairman, if I may, make a motion that we recommend approval of the petition with the conditions, recommended by the staff as modified by the applicant in his presentation.
okay, so Jim has given us a first for approval with 7 conditions, revisions included by the applicant. And I need a
that clear?
second. Yeah,
I'll second that.
there you go. Steven. All right, so I have a first and a second to approve with the 7 conditions slightly revised by the applicant. And I'll ask you to raise your right hand if you agree with that approval. So I have 3. And therefore I'll ask who would like to vote against this approval. We have 4. So that motion has been denied. Haven't had it in a while. Do I need to make a motion to deny? Or, okay. So now I need to ask for a motion, another motion, because that one failed. And I'll looking for, I assume the,
I'll make a motion.
there you go,
deny.
Kobe. And still need a second. There you go, Pam. We have a motion to deny. And I'll ask for raise of right hand if you agree with that denial motion. We have 4. And I'll ask Who is opposed to that motion? And so, okay. So that will go up to the county commissioners as a denial, and you'll address it there, and they'll make their own mind up. All right? With that, I'll take the next.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, your next case is P 24-0210 Dixon Family Trust, applicant and owner. This is special use P 24-0210. This is parcel A 03003 and A 02032. Currently zoned AG in the suburban neighborhood and country estates character areas. And the request is a special use approval for recreational overnight camps with the construction of 10 recreational cabins for overnight rental, along with converting an existing dwelling to use for an overnight rental. This is the recorded plat you have in your application packets. Another recorded plat of the subject parcels. You have a concept plan and then a slightly larger version of that showing the proposed 10 cabins on the subject parcel with an entrance to lane and an accessory entrance on the 53. And these are the architectural images proposed with the application. Staff recommends conditional approval with our 3 standard conditions. Number 4, the preliminary and site development plan shall indicate a 50-foot buffer along all property lines adjacent to existing residential uses adjacent to areas that propose a commercial use in accordance with table 8.1. Number 5, there shall be no amplified music after 9 p.m. Number 6, all existing and proposed commercial drives on the property shall be constructed to meet fire codes capable of supporting the imposed load of fire apparatus weighing up to 75,000 pounds. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have a list of people that were able to sign up. I'll call Mick Kittle first, please. Do I assume you're the representative? Okay.
Yes, sir. And then a presentation. There you go. Perfect. Good evening, Mick Kittle with SPG Planners and Engineers, 1725 Electric Avenue in Watkinsville. I just wanted to start with an overview so you all understand, the full extent of the Dixon and Hedges family property. It encompasses approximately 470 acres. So from Lane Creek to Hog Mountain, down Moore's Ford, it's a pretty big property, beautiful property with, existing homes.
Excuse me for interrupting, but I
Yes.
think you'll want to speak up so that
Oh.
the audience can hear you a little bit better, please.
Yep,
Thank
let
you.
me do the mic here. There we go. Is that better? All right, so the total property, it's approximately 470 acres, made up of multiple parcels. And the subject property that we're focusing on is highlighted in the brighter yellow, kind of on the north side there. And that's approximately 19 acres. And then there's a small portion, is the laser, the little red button there? Okay, there we go. So the main parcel is 19 acres here, and then there's a small portion of the larger 300 piece where we have an access to Lane Creek. There is an existing driveway there that will be improved to meet fire and access standards for vehicles. So really just wanted to go through, our plan and what we're wanting to do here. And so, the goal of this effort is to construct a small recreational overnight cabin community. We want it to align, with the area's heritage of low impact development. This does meet current zoning in the AG as a special use, and it enhances the local economy by attracting, light tourism to the area, which really, the area is known for its scenic beauty, and you've got regional amenities, local amenities, golf, fishing. There's parks nearby, state parks, local parks, as well as some established event venues nearby that we feel like this could support, for overnight stays. So, as I said, the cabin site covers approximately 20 acres, and it will be accessed from Lane Creek for the main guests. And then on Hog Mountain, there's an existing gravel drive that connects into the property. We would not use that for primary guest access or emergency. That would just remain as is for, service by the landowners and for their access only. The ITE manual, it said that, basically with the amount of cabins, 10 proposed and then one home that would be converted to a rental as well, would generate 39 daily trips. And, the intersection there at Lane Creek and Hog Mountain currently per GDOT generates over 7,000 daily trips. So we're less than 1% of an impact to the actual traffic in that area. It's a pretty, low impact use, and we feel like, the traffic component really wouldn't even hardly be noticed. So what the landowner's presenting is to construct 10 high-quality, fully furnished cabins to ensure privacy while maintaining a rustic yet modern aesthetic that complements the natural surroundings. Each cabin is going to be approximately 1,000 square feet, 2 bedrooms, a bathroom, small kitchen, living area, and porch. We have some precedent imagery that was shown earlier, just to give you an idea, of the architecture, really meant to be kind of a quaint, modern, rustic look, and this blends with the existing architecture on site. The homes, and there's a barn on one of the larger parcels as well. So this really blends well with the community. And we're still in the concept planning phase. So the actual architectural plans and floor plans have yet to be fully developed. That's typically with the next step going into construction drawings, but this is definitely the inspiration there. As far as pricing, rentals, we're thinking probably in the range of $750 to $1,000 a night per cabin. Just meant to be more, high end. There's going to be 2 parking spaces provided for each cabin. There will be a designated ADA cabin as well that will have a paved space for that. There's going to be an outdoor shared recreation area, and I'll just go back to the plan here. Just a small little shared outdoor recreation area, as well as a gathering space for, bonfires and for folks to get together. If your family's staying in a cabin, you can go roast marshmallows or whatever you want to do there. Along the western portion and northern portion, there is a required 50-foot buffer since we are adjacent to existing residential. And the intent of the natural buffer is to utilize what existing vegetation is there and then supplement that with a mix of evergreen trees, 6-foot evergreen shrubs, to really create a year-round screen, from adjacent properties and ensure that there is vegetation as well as, the ability to continue to plant more should that ever thin out. So we're definitely committed to keeping, all this proposed buffer and keeping that, healthy and ensure the longevity of it. If there's any proposed lighting, which I'm sure we would have to do for safety and parking, it's going to have to be downcast, to meet Oconee standards, and we'll assure that, and to prevent light pollution onto adjacent properties. I know there's a requirement, you can't have more than a foot candle. So we're going to definitely abide by the code on everything that we're proposing for this site. And then, we understand the importance of preserving the environment. So our construction plans will follow environmental guidelines to minimize impact on local wildlife and vegetation. Additionally, we'll employ best practices for stormwater management, erosion control, and wastewater. So, I've been in touch with fire. I had a meeting today with Russ Henson and Daniel Biomonte. So they're on board with this. We're going to provide proper turnarounds and just to assure, there's life safety services to get here. So essentially that's, what we're looking at here is just a small quaint cabin project. And we're here to seek Planning Commission's recommendation for approval to move forward with final design and permitting. So I do thank you for your time, and I'm happy to answer any questions. I do have Tracy Hedges here as well to represent the trust and speak to the project as well.
Okay,
Thank you.
I'm going to ask for a quick pause. Lisa, I have a quorum if you have to go. Are you still planning to go? I still have a quorum. All right. With that, I'll ask the next speaker. On my list, I have Alison Black listed, or I can have the other representative. You said the
Yes,
owner?
Tracy would
Okay,
represent the
let's have them
family
first.
trust. Yes.
I see them signed up here. I'll just.
Good evening.
Evening.
I'm Tracy Dixon Hedges. I'm part of the trust, and this is my family's lands. My mother is here this evening, as well as a lot of our friends that, love to come out to our property. So Mick and I discussed maybe it would help to just understand how we landed here at this idea. We thought it may be a good idea just to share a little bit of the history so you have an understanding how we kind of honed in on this idea. The parcel is one of several that we own for a total, as Mick said, just under 470 acres. My father bought the bulk of the land back in the early 70s. He was actually part of an investment club, and they would go around buying land. And so he bought it with a group of men, and he grew to love the land so much that over time, over the years, he bought them out one by one by one. And so today, still back in the early 70s, I think it was 72, he finally owned all of it. So it's been in our family for 50 plus years. As the years went by, he would come out and he would tinker and bush hog and cut roads and cut paths, all of which we get to have the benefit of today. And the goal was to turn the place into a place that any and all could come, and not just for our family. He and my mother have always been the epitome of Southern hospitality. Throughout the years, their early vision became a reality. And many of our friends are here tonight that, like I said, they come out and we run and we walk. Many of our friends have brought their kids out to learn how to drive, driving the property. And fishing as well. We've hosted so many events where we have donated the land. We've opened up our home to host lots of events, and that includes UNG had their fundraiser out there, Young Life, Piedmont Hospital. We've hosted the Kentucky Derby, thing that they have as a fundraiser. The Boys and Girls Club. When Caterpillar came to town, we had a welcome to the community party out there. So I want you to know that the goal for us is to keep it in our family and keep doing what we have been doing for decades. So this particular parcel at 6011 was purchased in 2008. It was not part of the original 300 and plus acres. The owners, Mr. and Mrs. Fields, were getting up in age, and Mr. Fields became very sick with cancer and moved to a nursing home. So Mrs. Fields called my dad and asked him, literally, will you buy my house and my property? Now, you remember 2008 was not a great year to be buying real estate, especially if you didn't need real estate. But he did. He bought Miss Fields' house and this parcel. And then in turn, he let her rent it from him until it became her turn to leave and go on to a nursing home. So that's how we came to own this parcel. So as you can imagine, 470 acres is a lot to take care of. It became, so we knew we wanted to keep doing what we've always done. We kind of started talking about, we got to create some revenue in order to hold it. So that's, when we started these conversations. And I will tell you, my father's an engineer and a developer. My brother is a developer. My husband is a builder. I'm in real estate. I'm at Caldwell Banker Upchurch. I sell a lot of those $1 million homes. It would be super easy for us to put in something that y'all just went through. It would be easy for us to do that. We know what we're doing. We could do it. Or I could make a phone call and I could sell it to another developer. I mean, that would probably be the alternative. That's not our goal. Our goal is to stay and to keep it, just like we wanted to. So one day a friend of mine called from church, and his daughter was getting married nearby at Vintage Oaks Farms, which is right next to us. And he asked, do you have, I know y'all have a rental house, but do you have any place that we can stay? Our whole family is coming in for the wedding from out of town and all over. And to me, that was the aha moment. It was, oh my goodness, we don't, but how fabulous would it be if we did? And there's nothing like this on this side of the county, but yet we are in the middle of a half a dozen venues and within a 5-mile radius. And we're in, in another 12 or a dozen venues within a 15-mile radius. So we've got so much nearby. That's how we started thinking about a way to create revenue, a way to keep it in the family, a way to keep doing what we do best, and be able to hold on. I was listening to the earlier concerns about the impact of the schools and traffic. And with this, you won't have to worry about that. We won't be impacting the schools. This is a small 10 cabins is what we're talking about. And so then at the end of the day, we knew we needed to be thoughtful about what we built and how we went about it. And of course, looking at the UDC, zoning buffers, traffic, and all of that. So that's when we decided that we needed some professional help and not keep it, inside the family for us to work out. So we hired Smith Planning Group, who has been nothing short of amazing to work with. They get it. They see the vision. They have been out there more times than I can count on these two hands to walk that land, and they really understand it. And they've guided us very, very well. The last thing I want to say is that, again, the goal to keep it, to do well by our neighbors, by our county, and keep on doing it. And we are willing to make the investment and put our hands on it. And a couple of years ago, my husband and I moved over there. So we are on the backside of the property. So we're there along with my parents. And we thank you for your consideration and thinking outside the box. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, so I'll go back to my list, and Allison Black was able to sign up second. Do you want to go at the? Okay, so that's a ditto. Yeah, we allow for that. And then Ron Cox is also another ditto. Okay. And I'll allow, is there anyone else that wants to have a comment or two in favor? All right. So with that, I'll close that portion and ask Kyle Setzer. Yeah.
Good evening, Commission. My name is Kyle Setzer. I'm at 6141 Hog Mountain Road. My property is the 17 acres roughly adjacent next to it. We obviously have concerns because my private residence is there. I have 3 small children. We purchased that particular parcel about 4 years ago. And the last thing that me and my family had in mind would be, short-term, constant out-of-towners in and out beside my property. I'm not sure if you all received my report that I did at all, or you did? Okay. So obviously property values potentially of Airbnb style, rentals is a concern for us and the nearby neighbors. But most importantly for us is the buffer and the screening, right? So on the Townley and the previous application, I think they did a great job of justifying 3 different options to eliminate potential noise and other pollution there. That's my concern. Obviously, if you're going overnight for a wedding and having a good time and drinking at a bonfire, that's the last thing I want to hear in my children, right? When we're trying to get some sleep, given the agricultural and residential area there. So more details around that, particularly around like soil berms and evergreens. The last thing I want to see is the thin out of a barrier when I can see everything that I showed in my pictures of where all properties and the heavy concentration of 25, 50 feet to my property line. So that's obviously our concerns and something that I would like to address is hopefully like some type of fencing there. If you saw the fence now, it's currently damaged and has been since we purchased the property, where guests can easily walk, through, to mine where my children play in our backyard. So some type of extra barrier there for security concerns for out-of-towners and short-term, turnover there. As well as noise. I do like the staff's recommendation of a shorter time period than what the county has of 11 p.m. of the 9 p.m. I am in favor of that. Obviously, the other concern I have is with the gathering terrace, right? So that's where everyone's going to be at a communal area. And it's again right by our property and there for a concentrated of 40 plus guests. Bonfires, we all know what happens if you've ever been out in the country and been on bonfires. They're not necessarily quiet. So could that potentially be relocated to another central location on the other side of the existing cabin of a total of 11? So maybe something like that could offset, potentially impact, to me and my family and the surrounding neighbors, which I did supply letters of their signatures as well. in the buffer and the barrier, there is a shed that is not also on the concept plan displayed. It's roughly 3-4 feet from my property line. Is that going to stay? Is it going to be removed? I don't know because it's not shown there. As well as the pole barn, which is about 3 feet from my property line as well, both under the UDC guidelines. Are they going to move? What are they going to serve as a purpose as? You know, are they going to be potential in that barrier? Are they going to be accessing people constantly right there? So those are obviously concerns of ours too. You know, it's really just on the noise, the transient, short-term guests and fluctuation to me and my neighbors. The common line on the concept map, right? There's going to be stuff out there directly behind my neighbor's back porch and my front porch. The gathering terrace is right off my back porch as well. I would say that's really our concerns, is just potentially security for our kids and my neighbor's grandkids when they play outside in the woods, which is why we moved here. We don't know who the guests are, right? If this is going to be on an Airbnb style app, you don't know, right? I don't know who these people are. So there's definitely concerns for me and my family with the security as well, and the noise. So for me, the fixing of the fence, which is not mentioned in other stuff like that, is critical for me and the security of that, of me and my family. So that's all I have to say. And if you have any questions, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
All right, thank you. So Kyle was the only one that signed up to speak on opposition type points. Is there anyone else that needs to get our attention? All right, so I'll close the public comment. Kyle had a few things that I think the applicant or representative might address before I bring it to the commission. Do you want to take that a chance?
So I'll speak to a few of the technical
Go ahead and
components.
pick that mic up. Got pulled down. There you go.
I'll speak to a few of the technical and design components that were brought up, specifically the fire pit location. You know, we have that, again, it's a concept plan, and it really lent itself well to the location based on the trail network that we're providing. But we're happy to revisit that and, you know, pull it further off of the property line. I think right now it's, you know, maybe 75 feet away from the property line and behind the 50-foot buffer. But if that doesn't feel comfortable, then, you know, we're happy to reevaluate the location. It's the little square,
Yeah.
on the
Got it
plan.
here.
And regarding the buffer too, you know, we do have a small section exhibit on the plan sheet. So it gives you, and I'm not sure if you have the latest plans or not. We've gone through some review periods. But there is a buffer section that does show, you know, a pretty thick proposed hedgerow of 6-foot evergreens plus evergreen trees. And we will be sure, you know, to go out on site to check any thin areas, make sure the buffer is exactly what we're showing it to be on the section. You know, we're not going to try and thin that out or have any intent to do so. I mean, I understand the concerns and we're happy to address those. As far as the noise ordinance, you know, ownership is going to be very strict about that. I mean, nobody wants, you know, loud neighbors, and we're happy to accept the condition to have an earlier quiet time than, you know, the county standard. I do understand that, you know, the venue, Vintage Oaks, is nearby. I mean, I live close to that as well, and you can hear that until later hours in the night. But, you know, all of those concerns, we understand, and we're happy to accommodate and make sure that we're doing the project the right way. Tracy Hedges also would like to respond to a few of the comments as well, if that's possible.
I'll keep you here one more second. There is a building that he seems to have indicated that doesn't have an arrow as to what you're doing, and it seems to be in the buffer. Is that?
So there is an existing shed that has been there for many years. The goal there is to remove it. It doesn't have a foundation. You know, it's actually just an old shed that they're happy to get rid of. And then the pole barn has been there, you know, long before these setbacks and everything existed. I mean,
It was primarily the shed that I was
correct.
thinking you could
Yeah,
address right.
the pole barn and the shed, you know, they are within the setback, but I believe they've been there for decades, and typically that's.
All right, well, we'll save some time. If Tracy wants to have a couple more minutes, we still have time, and then we'll have to
Excellent.
close the
Thank you.
public comment.
That That was it. I was just gonna mention the shed, easily moved. The pole barn was there when we bought the property. It can come down as well. That's, that's fine. The fence has been broken, yeah, because we're waiting to figure out what we're doing. And, but that will, and it was either repair it or are we gonna be able to do this hedge? We will do one or the other. So,
And for tonight, we just wanted to make sure you've heard. it,
yes,
and thank you.
absolutely.
All right. So with that, I will close the public comment section and I'll bring it up to you guys for any other questions. All right, while they're thinking, Guy, let me ask you a question. Special use permits. I have one on one of my properties, and I know that if I don't use it the way it was specially permitted for 12 months, I will lose that special use. Is that how all special use permits work?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So if it was not used as temporary overnight guests, would they lose their special permit?
That's correct. They'll be bound to the application that's been submitted, plus any conditions
Okay.
applied.
Checking on that, I thought that might be of other people's interest.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jim.
Mr. Herring, there's been some concern, of course, about the bonfire and the potential for noise. And I think it's a legitimate concern. According to good planning purposes, how far should that community area be from residential? Is there some factor?
We do not have a standard for that.
Okay,
Fire pit from a property line.
okay,
I believe the applicant seems to be amenable to moving that further away.
Okay.
Certainly that could be a condition that the planning commission recommends if
thank you.
deemed appropriate.
I've got one for you. For rental restrictions, as far as, putting a length on amount of consecutive nights that a tenant could stay, so it doesn't turn into like a long-term type. Obviously, if it's $1,000 a night and they can afford to live there for a year, then do it. But just to prevent that from happening, is that something that's already in the code, or is that something we have, or?
It's already in the code. So this will be what's called a short-term rental. So it can't be rented more than 30 days. So that's covered.
Quickest, connected with that, how does the county handle that?
We'll collect the hotel motel tax. Yes.
Okay, I see. Okay. Because I know that when I was horse showing, the RV park nearest had a 1 week limit. So I had 1 week in my name, 1 week in my wife's name, 1 week in my name. But anyway, so you guys collect the taxes. And so if somebody complains that, hey, I see school bus pulling up there, you guys would be the
Yes,
ones to address.
That's right. Yes, sir.
All right. Any other questions?
Another question too.
Yes.
If I may, Tracy, if you would, please. Just to clarify, did I understand that both you and your parents live nearby
We live, yes, right behind.
on the
on
property
the
or?
property.
Okay, very well. Thank you. That's all I needed.
How we doing? Any other questions?
I'm just gonna verify if the suggestions from the fire department, that's all in this as well.
Yeah. All right.
I've got, one thing we might consider, be increasing the buffer.
You can make a motion to that effect. So what we'll do is I'll fish for a motion. If you want to add to the staff's recommendation, you just need to tell me, and Jim taught me a lesson. Try to give me something that I can write down, okay? For those of you that weren't here, we had a long, okay. So is it any of the staff's recommendations that you want to make a modification to, or are you talking about adding a motion? Right now, the number 4 talks about it. Okay. And because this is a temporary special use, they are required to put 50 feet pretty much all the way around. Is that,
I would ask that we up it to 75, just to add an extra layer of buffer to those residential.
All right, so now I'm gonna ask you to make a motion to approve, I assume,
Yes.
with the staff's condition and adjusting number 4 to 75 feet minimum. Is that how you
Yes.
want it? Right, so Colby has made a motion to approve with the staff's condition, but he wants to increase the buffer to 75 feet. Can I get a second for Colby's?
I'll second.
Okay, James. And so James and Colby are proposing that we approve the motion, 6 staff recommendations, number 4 being modified to a 75-foot buffer. If you agree with that motion to approve,
Before we do that, may
Yeah.
I ask the,
little discussion, go ahead.
would you also accept in your motion that the bonfire would be moved to the east side?
I think we need to address that in a different.
Different one, very well.
I would also like to click on the 75-foot for it to be natural, not planted.
Natural versus plant, okay? So we have a motion to approve 6 conditions, number 4 being modified to a 75-foot buffer, natural versus a planted buffer. So at this time, I've got a first and a second. I will ask for approval of that motion. Raise your right hand if you agree. Got 4. And those of you that don't agree,
So what are we voting on exactly?
okay.
Are we voting to approve the whole thing or just this one motion?
In this case, I was taking Kobe's motion to approve if only number 4 was modified. We did hear another issue brought up. I guess, Kobe, would you like to add his?
Good with that?
So Kobe is gonna add, let's call it number 7, fire pit relocated more central.
Should we say that it has to be, just to try to give it a like hard geographic location, so it's not?
I would hesitate to give them a restriction as to where. I'm gonna phrase it as central to the project as opposed to outer edge. Is that, you think that speaks to what you want to address? Sure. Okay, go. To central area of the project. All right, so let me restate then. I had 4 votes in favor with just modified number 7. If I bring it back, how many would I have to approve it if we had item number 7? So I would have 5 vote and 1 against. That is approved. We will add item number 7, ask that the fire pit be relocated to a more central area of the project as opposed to outer edges. All right, so that has been approved with the motions, and we'll send that to the BOC and let them have a thought at it, okay?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, your next case is special use P240216, Prince Avenue Baptist Church. It's parcel B 02012 BC. It's currently zoned AG in the community village character area. And the applicant is requesting a change in conditions of previously approved special use P230116 to construct a 60,000 square foot event facility with 531 parking spaces. This is the recorded plat with your application. The concept plan, a slightly larger version of the proposed amendments to the special use. Current architectural images, the site showing the location of the proposed improvements. And staff recommends conditional approval with our 3 standard conditions. Number 4, a traffic impact study shall be conducted and submitted for review according to UDC standards prior to submission of the preliminary or site development plans. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so all I have is Mr. Carter as a representative, please.
Good evening, Jeff Carter, 1010 Commerce Drive, Watkinsville, Georgia, here representing Prince Avenue Baptist Church. have a couple of slides for you, just to kind of orient you, to the property. This is Ruth Jackson Road here, and this is Highway 78, here. The main worship facility is right here in the middle of the property. And so what the church would like to do is add parking along this side, of the property. And then this kind of light orange color would be the future building. And so this is just a little bit closer image. The church is in very much a demand for parking. I was trying to figure out how to say that. Very, very high demand for parking. It's at a premium. They are growing rapidly, and their desire is to put some more parking in to serve the people coming to church there. And then the building is a little bit more long-term, but will serve several functions there. On the staff conditions, and I think this is fairly straightforward, so I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail. I'm more than happy to, but primarily it's driven by the need for parking and facility, multi-use facility. The only suggestion that we have, and this is another one that I've talked to staff about, and I think they support this, their recommendation, I believe it's number 4, hopefully, a traffic impact study shall be conducted and submitted for review according to UDC standards prior to submission of the preliminary or site development plan. So we do not have a problem doing a traffic study, but the way this read, that if the church wanted to go and add 50 parking spaces or whatever, that would trigger the traffic impact analysis. And really what's driving that is the 60,000 square foot building. And so we simply ask to add to that condition to read, a traffic impact study shall be conducted and submitted for review according to UDC standards prior to submission of the preliminary or site development plan for the proposed building. And so it seems like a small change, but it's really big for the church because they have a need for parking right away. And so if they can come in and put parking without doing a whole lot of traffic studies, which is a significant item, we'd appreciate your support on that. So I will leave it at that and be glad to try to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. So I didn't have anybody signed up, but I'll ask if anybody wants to speak. All right, so I'll go ahead and close the public comment section. Doesn't look like it needs to be addressed. And I'll bring it up here to you guys.
How many parking spaces was it? 500 and change?
531, it says.
531, okay.
And I guess first question, we'll just verify with Mr. Herring that the idea of traffic study only necessary if the building is finally platted.
That's right. Yeah, the building, the use of that building is what would trigger the need for those additional trip counts. So we're fine with that.
Any other questions that we need to sort out?
Yeah, I had a question for Mr. Carter. Yeah, I'm looking at a Google map of this right now. It looks like there's already some construction on the south side of what y'all are proposing. Is there stormwater detention in place there now already with that new construction, and you're just going to add on to that with this new facility?
Yes, there is stormwater management for the entire property, and you are right. There is construction going on right now for a new gymnasium for the school, and that pond is being enlarged. And for this project, that will be enlarged even more. But
Yeah, we get Prince Avenue in here about every 3 months. At least lately.
I'll get used to it.
Yeah. Anybody else? All right, so now I'll fish for a motion to approve. The applicant has asked us to make that slight modification of item number 4, but it would be a motion to approve with the 4 conditions, I assume, unless you guys bring up something else.
I'll make that motion.
So Nathan has made a motion to approve with all 4 staff conditions, modified number 4. I need a second.
Make a second.
All right, James? I have a first and a second. If you vote in favor of this to approve, please raise your right hand. And then I got unanimous. All right. So that has been approved. It will be sent on to the Board of Commissioners. And at this point, we need a motion to adjourn. For those of you that are new, we can't leave unless motion to adjourn. So get a motion. So Nathan wants to be first. And then need a second.
I'll second that.
There you go, Stephen. And we don't raise our right hands. We just get ourselves up and get going. All right. So with that, I'll call this meeting adjourned. Thank you.